airline industry took a battering in the last couple of years due to the global economic meltdown, but it is finally showing signs of recovery. According to the latest report from the International Air Transport Association, Air Pacific carriers saw a 6.5% increase in demand in January compared to the same period a year ago. This compares to a 2.1% gain for North America and 3.1% for Europe.
Africa has never suffered as much as other areas. So from here we are building on a very sound foundation. And for this year we are sort of, how shall I say, cautiously optimistic that 2010 will be better than 2009, but it's still going to be a very difficult year.
With its strategic location and developing infrastructure, Kenya is carving a niche for itself, its vision to connect Africa to the world.
Kenya is the economic powerhouse of East Africa, and as such we see a lot of travel coming in into the region, but through Nairobi. And East Africa offers enough travel destinations, tourism opportunities, business, trade, tourism. So all in all, I think looking at the East African region, Kenya is a main market, is a main traveling destination.
It is against this backdrop that Swiss Airlines has introduced a new Airbus. It sees the Zurich to Nairobi and Dar es Salaam route as a lucrative business destination. Flights will take off in April.
Now the next one comes to Nairobi, because it's, on the one hand, we believe in this market, we have very strong numbers, we see a solid booking outlook, we have made very good experience with it. We can serve 2 destinations in one go, and it's a question of rotating the aircraft, because for an airline it's very important to use the fleet to the utmost extent, because an aircraft that sits on the ground costs money, so you have to fly them. And with putting Nairobi on the map for the new aircraft, we have found an ideal arrangement with the rotating that aircraft, so we get a very high utilization out of it.
The aviation industry can't get away from criticism about its contribution to carbon emissions. Air travel accounts for an estimated 2 to 3% of worldwide greenhouse gas emissions. Players in the sector have been called upon to upgrade their fleets to improve on their carbon efficiency.
The introduction of the Airbus A330-300 marks a step first, because it reduces further the fuel consumption by about 13% compared to its little brother, the A330-200.
By 2050, British Airways has committed to reduce its carbon emissions by about 50% in different ways. We are getting more fuel efficient engines. We are going to start using biomass for fuel by 2014. Actually, we are the first airline that is going to be using biomass for fuel. We've also done quite a bit of recycling in order to reduce on carbon emissions.
One of the biggest challenges the airline industry has faced recently has been the volatility in the price of oil, which spiked in 2008 to close at $150 a barrel. This represented a significant 40% of airline costs.
Now, all of a sudden, we got to a point where for British Airways particularly, oil or fuel became one of our biggest expenditures. There was a moment when we were spending up to about £1.3 million a day just on fuel.
In the past decade, air travel has grown by 7% per year, and as the industry becomes more competitive, carriers have looked to improve performance and competitiveness in a bid to cut down costs as well as shore up their bottom line. With that in mind, frontier markets such as Africa begin to look attractive.
Africa, I'll start off as a region, has done quite well during the recession, because the aviation industry has always relied on the US, Europe, or the developed world to back it up.
What is important in an environment like this one, you have to know what you want to be. What is your customer proposition? Where do you want to position yourself as an airline? To which type of customers and segments do you want to cater to?
Some of the players in the industry have proceeded along the path towards consolidation through the establishment of alliances and partnerships between airlines.
Increasingly, we are seeing more airlines do code sharing agreements with other airlines, feeding passengers into other routes, and this more happens very well if you have a strategic partner or an airline you have in partnership with. For the case of Kenya Airways, they do have that relationship with KLM, and I think overall they do benefit on the European African routes, and you need also to appreciate that Europe is a major source of travel. In fact, most of the tourists that we get even in the region do come from European countries.
With comfort being touted as the benchmark for long-haul flights by air travelers, airlines have been quick to introduce new aircrafts, with the latest being Swiss Air, which has made investments well worth over 70 billion shillings, involving the replacement of smaller aircrafts.
In 2014, as well, what concerns the European fleet, we will as well have new aircrafts, Bombardiers C series, which will replace the present Avro liners 100 we have, commonly called Jumbolino.
Moving forward, the outlook for the air travel industry is one of strong growth, and analysts say while the future may hold challenges, successful airlines will be those that continue to tackle their costs and improve their products, thereby securing a strong presence in the key world aviation market.